all, this is guided practice number 16. This is section 3.7 on operations on functions. So we are going to take a look at a couple of problems here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. And then we're also going to check back here and we're going to do the number 38 problem from the book that we had up there. Okay, that was on the lecture sheet. But we're going to do it as part of guided practice so that we can see some more practice problems. Okay, we're jumping in here and we've got two functions and I'm going to highlight them. F I'm going to make yellow and G I'm going to make blue. And we're going to do all of these things with this function. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to find F minus G of X. Okay, so that's the same as F of X minus G of X. So I'm going to start with my first function, which is x squared plus 2. And I'm going to subtract. And when I subtract, I make sure that I put the second function in parentheses. And I'm subtracting 3x minus 7, which is my g of x. When I do that, I'm going to go ahead and distribute that negative to both pieces. And this is x squared plus 2 minus 3x plus 7. And I can combine my like terms there and get x squared minus 3x plus 9. So that is my F minus G. Okay, so we've taken care of that first one. The next one we want to do G of G times F of X. So this is F of X times G of X. So I'm going to multiply my two functions. And I might need a little bit of extra room here. Let me slide it down. There we go. So F of X is the x squared plus 2. And we are multiplying that by the g of x, which is 3x minus 7. When we're multiplying, we're always going to put our functions in parentheses if there's more than one thing, right? Okay, we can go ahead and FOIL this then. The first two terms there is 3x cubed. The outside is negative 7x squared. The inside is plus 6x. And the last is negative 14. So if we come... There's nothing to combine there, actually. They're all distinct terms, so we're going to go ahead and just finish it up and call it a day. Okay. Next, we want F composed with G. So we want F circled G of X. It kind of looks like fog. And that means we want F with G of X inside. Okay. So that means that I'm going to take G of X and put it inside the F. So that means I'm taking this blue function here, the 3x minus 7, and I'm going to put it in where the x is for F, okay? So that means I'm going to get 3x minus 7, everything squared, plus 2. And then when I square that, we square the first term, so 9x squared. We multiply the 2 and double. So negative 7 times 3x is negative 21. Double that to negative 42x. And then square the second. So plus 49. Plus 2. And that's going to give me 9x squared minus 42x plus 51. If you're not sure on the quick rules there of squaring, go ahead and write that out and FOIL it. And then you'll be sure to get the right answer. And then the last one we're going to do is we are going to switch the order on a composition. So we're going to do G of F. So that's G with a little F of X inside it. And what that means is I'm going to switch my ordering here. So this time I'm going to take F and I'm going to put it into the X for G. So I'm going to replace the X behind the 3 with the x squared plus 2. So I'm going to take 3 times x squared plus 2. Is that minus? Yes, minus 7. We can go ahead and distribute the 3. So 3x squared plus 6 minus 7 is going to give me a final answer of 3x squared minus 1. Okay, so there's our number 1. We're going to do this a couple more times. All right. Number 2, we are going to subtract f minus g. So f minus g of x is f of x minus g of x. So we're taking 1 minus x cubed and subtracting x plus 5, keep it in parentheses. And that's 1 minus x cubed minus x minus 5, or negative x cubed minus x, and then the 1 and negative 5 together is negative 4. Okay. Next, we're going to multiply them. Fg of x is f of x times g of x. So we're going to take our 1 minus x cubed, and we're going to multiply it by x plus 5. When we do that, we're going to FOIL this out. We're going to get x plus 5 minus x to the 4th minus 5x cubed. Put it in order. That's negative x to the 4th minus 5x cubed plus x plus 5. Convention is that we put the highest power first, so that's why we're doing that. All right, and then we want f composed with g first. So we want f composed with g of x. So that means I'm taking f and I'm putting a little g of x inside there. So I'm taking this x plus 5 and I'm replacing the x with it. So that's going to give me 1 minus x plus 5 cubed. Now I'm not going to go ahead and multiply that out because I don't want to cube things. So we're going to leave it as is. And then lastly, we're going to switch the order. We're going to take g of f of x. So we're going to take the f of x and put it inside the g. So that means up here, we're going to take the f of x and we're going to put it right there for the x. So we're going to have 1 minus x cubed plus 5. And you can combine those terms, and that's negative x cubed plus 6. Okay, and that's our number 2. On to number 3. We're going to start out by subtracting these. So f minus g of x is f of x minus g of x. And this is 3x squared minus 1 minus, now g of x is 1 whole square root, so I don't need parentheses here, square root of x plus 1. Okay, nothing to combine, so I'm going to leave it. F times g of x is our f of x times g of x. So we're taking the 3x squared minus 1. It's more than one thing, more than one term, so I'm putting it in parentheses. And we're going to multiply that by our g of x, which is the square root of x plus 1. And again, I'm not going to distribute that because it's just going to look messier. So I'm going to leave that one as is. Then we want f composed with g of x. So that means we're doing f of g of x. So we're putting g of x inside this x. So that means we're taking 3 and we're taking the square root of x plus 1 and we're squaring it and then subtracting 1. The square and the square root cancel and we get 3 times x plus 1 minus 1. That will go ahead and expand. So that's 3x plus 3 minus 1 gives me 3x plus 2. And then lastly, we're going to compose in the opposite order. So this time I'm going to take the f of x and put it inside the g of x where the x is. So we're doing fg composed with f. And so that is g of f of x. Okay. So we're taking the f of x, which is the 3x squared minus 1, and we're putting it inside that square root. So 3x squared minus 1, square root of 3x squared minus 1 plus 1. Yep. And then these two terms will cancel out. And we'll be left with the square root of 3x squared. And you can take the x out, so that's just the square root of 3 times x. Okay, because the x is perfectly squared, but the 3 is not. And that's going to be my final answer. Okay, so there is our number 3. And lastly, for this part, we've got f of x equals x squared plus x plus 3, and g of x is 2x plus 5. So let's start with f minus g of x. That is f of x minus g of x. And we're going to take x squared plus x plus 3. And we're going to subtract. And there's two terms in g, so we're going to put it in parentheses. And we've got 2x plus 5. Go ahead and distribute that negative. That's going to give us the x squared plus x plus 3 minus 2x minus 5. And that's going to give me a final answer when I combine my like terms of x squared minus x minus 2. Next, we're going to take f times g of x. So that is f of x times g of x. And we are going to take, this is going to have a lot of terms, x squared plus x plus 3 times 2x plus 5. And we're going to expand that out. Okay, so x squared times both of those terms. So we will get a 2x cubed plus 5x squared. Then we take the x times the other part. So x times 2x is 2x squared. X times 5 is plus 5x. And then we take the 3. So 3 times 2x is 6x. And 3 times 5 is 15. And that allows me to combine my like terms to get 2x cubed plus 7x squared plus 11x plus 15. And that's my final answer. And then we want to compose in both directions. So we want f composed with g of x. So that is our f with g of x inside. So that means I'm taking the g of x and I'm plugging it in two places wherever I see an x. So I'm going to have 2x plus 5 squared plus 2x plus 5 plus 3. All right, we're going to go ahead and expand this one because we're only squaring a binomial. This will give me 4x squared. Multiply the 2 and double. So 5 times 2x is 10x. Double it to 20x plus 25. If that's tricky for you, go ahead and write that out and FOIL it. And then we can drop the parentheses because there's nothing to distribute. And combine our like terms. So we're going to get 4x squared plus 22x. 25, 30, 33 as our constant term. Okay. And then we want to compose in the opposite order. So we're going to take our g of f of x. So we're doing exactly the opposite. So we're going to take our f and we're going to replace it right there in the g. Okay, so we're going to take 2 times everything that's in f. So x squared plus x plus 3. And then we're going to add 5. So that becomes 2x squared plus 2x plus 6 and add 5. So that's 2x squared plus 2x plus 11. Okay, and there's our number 4. And then lastly, I'm going to go up here to our lecture, the last problem in the lecture, and we're going to go ahead and do this one as well. So now we have two tables, one for t and one for s. And we're going to go ahead and find all of these values down here using our chart. So we want t composed with s of 1. So letter A, t composed with s of 1 means we want t of s of 1. So to find s of 1, we're going to go to the chart here with s, and our x value is 1. So if our x value is 1, then our s value is 0. So I'm going to replace the s of 1 with a 0, and then I'm going to go and evaluate the new one. So t of 0 is what I'm looking for here. So I'm going to go up to the t chart. My x value is 0, and the t value is 2. So this is going to be 2. For part B, we're going to flip the order. We want s composed with t of 1. So we want s of t of 1. So we're going to erase what we had. And we're going to go again. So this time we want t of 1 first. So my x value is 1. And so we're in the t chart. So the x value is 1. The t value is 3. So this becomes S of 3. Then down here, we go to a t value of 3, or an x value of 3. And we find that corresponding S value is 2. Then part C. T composed with T of 1. So T of 1. So we have a T value of 1. So let me erase what we've got. T value of 1, little t of 1, so capital T is 3. So this is capital T of 3. And so now my little t is 3, and I'm plugging into capital T, the corresponding is 0. And look at D. D was S composed with S of 1. So that is S of 1. I'm going to erase what we have. We're going to go back to our S. Our independent variable is 1, so our S of 1 is 0. So this is S of 0. And we're going to go again. So S of 0, an X value of 0 gives an S value of 1. And lastly, for letter E, we want T composed with S of 4. So if we erase what we have, now we're looking, we want T of S of 4. So I want S of 4 first. So I want a X value of 4. The corresponding S is 5. So this becomes T of 5. And now I'm going up to the T chart. Uh-oh, there's no 5 in the independent variable. So this one is not possible either. Okay. And that's where we're going to call it a day.